Hello and welcome to the Planning Commission meeting of February 5th, 2020 for City of Glendale. Can we please have roll call?
Planning Commissioners Astorian,
Here.
Chair Akchin,
Here.
Lee,
Here.
Minassian,
Here.
and Chairperson Shabazia.
Here. Can we have the report regarding the posting of the agenda, please?
Sure. The agenda for this meeting was posted on Wednesday, January 29th, 2020 on the bulletin board outside City Hall and on the city's website.
Thank you, sir. Please rise and follow after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is election of chairperson and chairperson pro tem. And we do have a process for this, and I am going to read this out loud. So election of a new chairperson. It is time to elect the new chairperson. First, I'll ask staff to open the election process. They will ask for nominations. No second is needed. After all nominations have been received, staff will call for a vote on the first nomination. If a majority vote is received, then a new chairperson is elected. If not, then staff will repeat the voting process with the second nomination until a new chairperson is elected. Staff, we are ready to start the election.
All right. So nominations are now in order. Are there any nominations?
I actually do have a nomination. I was going to nominate, I'm sorry, I said council. Planning Commissioner, yes, of course, hopefully. Planning Commissioner Traktian. I think in his short tenure, he's been showing us a great deal of enthusiasm, and I think it's time to pass the gavel to him. I'm not sure if there are any other nominations.
That's for the chair.
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Are there any other further nominations? No. Okay.
Yes.
So we have received all the nominations at this point. If there are no further nominations, nominations are now closed. Commissioner Charchian is nominated for chairperson. Roll call, please.
Planning Commissioners Astorian,
Yes.
Chair Akchin,
Yes.
Lee,
Aye.
Minassian,
Yes.
and Shabazia.
Yes.
Okay, great. The new chairperson now takes his seat and proceeds to conduct the business before the commission.
I will leave this.
Pro tem also to select.
Oh,
We do, okay, and then we move?
okay, so let's do the pro tem. Thanks,
Sounds good.
Shanaz. Oh. So do I have nominations for the pro tem?
You are on a roll, Madam Chair.
was-
Why don't you?
Sounds good. I was actually going to, let's nominate you. Okay. I'm sorry, I keep saying council member today.
Councilor.
Planning Commissioner Astorian.
Is that a Freudian slip?
So was the Shabazian nomination first?
No, I was nominating Chair,
Okay.
I was nominating Planning
Astorian.
Commissioner Astorian, yes.
Okay.
That's what I was trying to do.
Are there any other nominations for the pro tem? No. So we have no further nominations. Then we'll take roll for Mr. Astorian being the pro tem.
Planning Commissioners Astorian,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Minassian,
Yes.
Shabazian,
Yes,
and Chairperson Chair Akchin.
Yes.
Great.
all right, and I think we actually move our seats and pass the gavel.
Now,
I think we actually pass it like that.
now staff does have a request in terms of the changing the order of the items on the agenda. We would like to request that item 9, Community Development Department updates, be bumped up before the public hearing on the vesting tentative track map. So if you'd like to entertain that, we'd appreciate it. Sure?
Sure, let's do it.
Okay. Bradley Calvert's here to give us a brief update on some of the projects that staff in the Planning Division Community Development Department are working on, and I'll just turn it over to him.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair. Congratulations on your appointment. Good evening, Commission members. We just wanted to come and give a brief update to the Planning Commission regarding some major planning initiatives that we will be kicking off this year. We updated Council last night on our outreach plan, but we are preparing to launch into first what would be the West Glendale Sustainable Transportation and Land Use Study.
Oh, your mic is on?
Yeah, it's turned on.
Hello? Yes, his mic is, okay, his mic is on. Okay, bye.
Are they good?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been on. The West Glendale Sustainable Transportation and Land Use Study is looking at a portion of West Glendale, both on existing land uses, making sure that they're compatible with some of the transportation improvements that are going to occur in that area, and then also looking at multimodal transportation improvements. And this really kind of spans from Brand to, I believe it is close to Sonora, if I'm not mistaken. And we will be looking at potential for protected bike lanes along Glen Oaks to improve those conditions for cyclists. We'll be looking at some of the land uses around there in light of potential for BRT to come through. We do have the second phase of the streetcar, which is anticipated to go up Glen Oaks if we do move forward with that study. So just looking at those kind of interface and interactions with other transportation alternatives. The other big project that we were preparing to kick off, which we just signed the contract the other day, and this is a very large one. This is going to be a multi-year effort. And this includes updates to the land use element, the circulation element, and the housing element of our general plan. All of this is in preparation for us to be able to do a traffic impact or transportation impact fee. That was something that was identified as a priority to the City Council. And what we ended up identifying through this process is that we needed to update these general plan elements in order to successfully create a transportation impact fee. Without an updated general plan and understanding of the land uses, without an updated housing element and circulation element, we would have to go back and essentially do that body of work all over again. So what this is allowing us to do is kind of move through sequentially to update those general plan elements. We will also be coming into compliance with SB 743, which requires us to change our measurement of transportation and traffic from a level of service to a vehicle miles traveled. So that's another component of this that actually has to be wrapped up by the middle of this summer. All of these will have extensive public outreach. As we informed Council last night, a lot of it will also overlap. We're going to kind of pair up some of these projects as part of that effort to ensure that we don't give fatigue to the general public, being that these are all very large planning initiatives. There's a lot of overlap to them. We'll be looking for opportunities to do some new forms of public engagement, such as a demonstration project. If we were to propose some sort of reconfiguration of the bicycle lane on Glen Oaks, to put a temporary installation out there to be able to measure it and measure its success. That way, before committing to a design, committing to a project, we could actually see the true impacts to traffic. We could see how the public responds to some sort of change there, and really be able to get a feel of what that project could be like. We've also opened up a storefront on Artsock Avenue as part of the Arts and Entertainment District visioning. We plan on using that as kind of a neutral territory rather than having people come to City Hall. A lot of times we do these meetings just next door, or having to go to a community center. Come to a neutral site that maybe is less intimidating than City Hall for some people, maybe a little bit more convenient for residents as well to host some of our public engagement. So you can expect us to come back to the Planning Commission several times, probably this year, next year, and maybe even the year after, with updates and to get feedback and input from Commission as well. So otherwise, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Mr. Chair, I have a question. The outreach, right? How do you envision that, and how many times, and which areas of town you are going to be reaching out to whom?
So for the West Glendale, it will be in that study area. We expect that project's going to be about a 12 to 14 month initiative. We expect 6 public meetings, public workshops, and then we expect about 4 pop-up events. So we'd be looking at something about every 5 weeks, 6 weeks for part of that project on average. For the general plan amendments, SB 743, and the transportation impact fee, we are looking somewhere between 12 and 18 workshops. We have an undefined number of pop-up events that would also occur with that. That would be a citywide outreach effort, because those are things that will impact all of the city. The transportation impact fee is a citywide fee, even if it may be calibrated differently per neighborhood and density and whatnot. And also, obviously, the land use and housing elements cover the entire city. One thing I did forget to mention, we will be incorporating environmental justice element to this as well. That is required as part of our work.
Just as we did with the South Glendale, where we did a survey of the historical assets that we have in the city of Glendale, do you envision that kind of a survey for the West Glendale community plan as well?
For a little clarification, the West Glendale Sustainable Land Use or Transportation and Land Use Plan is not the West Glendale Community Plan. One thing I failed to mention there is that this entire body of work will lay the foundation for us to do the East-West Community Plan. At that point, we would do those historic resource surveys. We do anticipate that we could start that East-West Community Plan towards the end of 2020, once we've had enough work and enough foundation laid from the analysis and research that we do in these projects.
Thank you.
I have a question. Do we have a link to our website so we can go check the details of these projects?
We haven't fully posted it yet. We are getting ready to have a kickoff meeting for that larger project, the general plan update, and both of these will have their own websites, and we will inform commissions, councils where they are, as well as the general public.
I just wanted to comment. I'm very excited about both projects that you mentioned. Looking forward to hearing more about them as they come to commission and actually going to the workshops. And we'll be excited to check the websites as soon as you guys post it.
Great.
It's going to be an exciting process. Right.
I ride bicycles, so I'm very excited to see how Glen Oaks Boulevard is going to be.
Same here.
Yeah.
How safe it'll be.
Okay.
All right.
So should I just move to the next agenda item then?
Yes.
Right, yeah.
Okay, so,
I think we skipped number 5, actually.
okay. So for the approval of minutes, do we have a motion?
Yes. I'll make a motion.
So moved.
Sounds good.
Okay, a motion is made to approve the minutes of January 15th, 2020, and there was a second. This will be roll call. Ms. Shabazian?
We
Yes.
don't need a roll call.
Oh, not for this one?
No.
Okay.
Not for the minutes.
Okay, we do it for DRB.
You've been away a while.
You're right.
Just,
Oh, yeah, thanks. Okay.
I'll have to abstain for that vote because I wasn't present at the last meeting, just
For the
for the
Approval
minutes.
of-
for the minutes? Okay.
Correct.
Yeah,
So,
when I'm taking votes.
Astorian? Aye?
We're not
Or no?
taking votes.
We're
Yeah,
not.
I
Okay.
just meant,
You just
because you
need-
guys
Okay,
put it in
so
the
it's
report, so.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
All right. So now we're down to the old business. We have no old business and new business.
Well, I think we're at first, there's no oral communication, and then we have no zoning appeals. And then, like you said, no old business, and then that brings us to new business. Item 1, vesting tentative track map number 82713 for 520 North Central Avenue and 521 North Orange Street. And at this point in time, I will recuse myself due to a conflict of interest, and I look forward to serving as the chair for the next year moving forward. Thank you guys for supporting me in that, and I'll see you at the next meeting.
Fine.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman.
Congratulations.
Already, you gotta give it to historian.
There you have the gavel.
Okay. So, Mr. Kiesel, we're ready for your report on
All
the
right.
next item.
All right, so good evening, Planning Commission members. The next item before you is a request to subdivide a development into 98 residential condominium units and 1 commercial condominium unit. The project is located at 520 North Central, 521 North Orange, and it's vesting tentative track map number 82713. Planning Division staff is recommending that the vesting tentative map be approved, subject to compliance with the State Subdivision Map Act, the certain chapters in the Glendale Municipal Code, the final map, and the new condominium map, as well as the attached conditions in your staff reports. So the site is a through lot. It has 150 feet of frontage on North Central Avenue and also 150 feet of frontage on North Orange Street. And it is approximately 352 feet from one street to the other. The project was reviewed and approved with conditions by the City Council in October of 2018. What you're doing tonight is acting on the subdivision, whether or not to subdivide it or not. So as I mentioned before, the applicant is proposing to subdivide an approved development into 98 multifamily residential units and 1 commercial unit. The development includes converting an existing 8-story office building adjacent to Central Avenue, it's existing, into 53 multifamily residential units. And then the ground floor will remain commercial. And then constructing 45 multifamily residential units above an existing 4-level parking structure which fronts Orange Street. So the parking structure is existing on Orange Street now. What the applicant is proposing to do is build 5 levels of multifamily residential above that. Well, they've gotten approval for that. They're requesting to subdivide it, basically. The lot is located between Doran and Milford Streets, and it is approximately 1.25 acres in size. Level on 520 North Central Avenue, levels 2 through 7 will include 8 multifamily residential units each. The 8th level will contain 6 multifamily residential units, and then, of course, the ground floor will be commercial. The units in this building will range from just over 1,000 square feet, 1,033 square feet, to just over 2,000 square feet, 2,063 square feet. The existing 4-level parking structure at 521 North Orange will be maintained. No real changes to that. And then above that structure, each of the 5 levels will contain 9 residential units ranging from about 835 square feet up to just under 1,500 square feet. Vehicular access to the project will be from North Orange Street into the existing parking structure. Basically, that will remain unchanged. Along with the approval of the project design by council in October of 2008, the City Council also approved 2 variances for the project. The first variance was allowing a ground level parking structure facing the street. The parking structure exists, it faces the street. We now have requirements that say you can't do that. So the variance was granted for that. And then the second variance was allowing certain parking spaces with less than the required minimum depth. So again, sort of related to, this is an existing parking structure. There were certain parking stalls that were not, did not meet depth requirements currently. There isn't a whole bunch you can do about that without demoing or significantly amending the parking structure, so a variance was requested and granted for that. The project site is physically suitable for the proposed type of development. The surrounding area is zoned for mixed-use development and is currently developed with multifamily units, offices, retail, restaurant uses, parking garage uses. It is in the DSP in the Orange Central District. The project also is consistent with the city's general plan, and that's detailed in the staff report. So I'd just like to conclude my, my speech with staff is recommending approval of the project with the 35 conditions contained in the staff report. I did want to bring up that earlier this afternoon, we received some correspondence from the applicant's representative. I put that on your desk, and they had some questions, concerns about some of the conditions. And what I thought I'd do is let the applicant's team speak and bring up those concerns. So I'll conclude my comments.
Do we want to go with questions from staff before we hear the applicant? So
I-
please,
I do.
Yeah, I have a question.
please go ahead.
Okay, should I start?
Shabazi, yes.
Thank you for the presentation. I have a few questions. My first question is, this project is in downtown specific plan. Why does it even come to planning commission? I thought that all
Subdivision.
projects, no matter what, only go to city council. I was just curious to know.
This is a subdivision,
Okay,
and you're authorized to approve, deny subdivision.
okay, so even if it's downtown specific, okay. And then my other question was, I'm just curious to know, if the subdivision doesn't happen, it seems like the project components of it has already been approved. What happens?
What happens is it can continue to be built, but the end result will be apartments.
I see.
Not the ability for sale units.
I see.
What you're acting on tonight is a subdivision, and basically that's creating invisible lines in the air to
Correct.
carve out individual units to then sell to individual people.
I see. And my last question, is this project in construction now, or they haven't?
Believe it is.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Lee.
Yeah, I have a question too. In the report, it talks about planning division requirements, and it talks about changes considered substantial by staff shall be reviewed by a planning commission, and determination of whether or not a change is substantial shall be made by director of community development. So is there a guideline as to what that substantial means, or is it just at the discretion of the director?
No, there isn't. There aren't hard and fast guidelines in terms of what is substantial, what isn't. I think the director will weigh, okay, this is the change that the applicant wants to make from the approved plans. Is this something that should go back to commission because it substantially changes the design, or they're adding or subtracting units, or any number of things? And that's really kind of his decision in terms of, yes, this is substantial enough. We want you all to see it again.
I guess my comment is that shouldn't there be some sort of a guideline?
I mean, you can certainly amend this condition. It's a fairly standard condition in any kind of development project, including subdivisions. I mean, if you're concerned about something in particular changing that you want to see, then we can certainly modify the condition. It's kind of a catch-all.
Commissioner Minassian.
Yeah, I have two questions. Any idea how long this project will take?
I don't. That's probably something better directed to the applicant. Yeah, I mean, if the final map, or if the tentative map is approved today, it really goes back to them in terms of the control, how long it will take the final map to be approved.
Second question is, they're not converting, they're adding to the parking lot, another 5-story. It's going to be closed, the structure will be closed during the construction, yes? Is that
That's also something that the applicant can address. Yeah.
That part of Orange is very congested, so losing a parking space, it's going to be really affecting the traffic and all that stuff. So, okay, we'll ask them.
So then, would I be correct to ask you if you're asking if there's a parking mitigation plan along with their development plan?
Well, during the construction time, if the building is going to, the structure will be closed, then we have to come up with some solution for it.
Very good. Any other questions from staff? All right, so I don't have any cards from the applicants, but you're more than welcome to come and speak to us, but make sure you fill out the card for us as well.
I will, Commissioner. Thank you. My name is Robert Montano. I'm representative for the applicant. Good evening, Commissioners. It's a pleasure to be in front of you. Tonight, our request is for a tentative tract map to establish the legal boundaries to be able to sell each one of these units once the building is converted from office to residential and once we complete the garage construction. Before I go into kind of the business of a little bit about the project, I'd like to respond to some of your questions to help you a bit with your kind of interests. So, first of all, the building is vacant for the most part. It's fundamentally vacant. So there is not a lot of traffic going in or out of the garage except to or through the easement that serves the McDonald's drive-through. We would keep all of that in operation and open, but in the meantime, the garage itself would not be open to the public. We have an easement that goes through from Orange to Central. That would remain in operation to serve the bank. That's some of our temporary parking for bank patrons, but for the most part, the garage itself will be closed as it will be undergoing strengthening, structurally upgrading for that component. The timing of the project from commencement is approximately 2 years. We have not yet started construction. We've paid for the building permit, so we've gone through the entire engineering and building permit process. We've paid for the building permit. We've been in a process of facilitating and waiting for tenants to vacate, secure financing, all of the other back of the house stuff. We're prepared to begin construction. This process will, track map process will track in parallel to the construction. So that's under construction. One of the questions that you did have regarding what happens if the track map is not approved. So when we were in front of council in October of 2018 now, exactly, council was stated their preference very clearly that they wanted to see this be as for ownership opportunities. We concur. We did these as larger size units because we believe that there's demand for like family-sized type housing units as families move into downtown and begin to grow. So we know that there's a park on Doran just west of Central. I think that's a great asset to the neighborhood. It would serve this building as well. It also has ease of access into the core of Glendale's downtown on Brand and so forth. So I think that this be a condo is our highest priority. We wouldn't want to necessarily change them to apartments. As for the action in front of you, I'm actually going to request a continuance to the next meeting. Unfortunately, there's a number of items in this agenda report that are in conflict with council's original approval, and I believe that the track map process of establishing the legal lots is one of critical significance. All of the conditions and everything that needs to be done for that purpose that go on to the state need to be 100% accurate. And I don't want to make modifications on the floor for fear of either violating council's wishes, actions, planning commissions, public works department, and all of the other departments, and of course our own priorities as well. So my request, and I can run through those for you really quickly. There's just a small handful of them.
Well, if I may stop you, if it's a matter of continuance, why are we going through the entire presentation? It should have been continued from the beginning, or is it something that you're just finding out about it?
Well, this was kind of a last minute change.
Well, we could have still not heard it and hear it next time, as opposed to a half-baked position that they have right now, because they're not sure what, they can share it with us. We have it, it's written.
Yes, correct.
But we're not gonna be able to make a decision on this. So if it's a matter of making a continuance, why don't we decide on that if it's acceptable to us?
Sure.
And then stop it right here.
That's my request. I don't want anybody in a position, the city yourselves, or but making bad decisions on the floor. I would prefer a
Well,
continuance,
never mind
if you
about
would.
us making bad
My-
decisions.
no,
We will
well,
we will be able
myself,
to
I don't
figure
want to make
out.
bad recommendations or requests.
So may I, so you may be
Thank
seated.
you, sir. I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
I would entertain a motion
But
to
Vice Chair,
continue.
but, you know, I do want to kind of write on his comment, though. I know that he tried to address his concern and our fellow Commissioner Subhasan, right? Subhasan's comments. But he was concerned with the mitigation of the parking. And I think next time they come up here, you know, after the continuance, I think it is something that we want to, you know, hear you address. But with that, yeah, I will move to continue this item.
To a date certain? If we may have,
Without,
Notice.
without further public notice. Are we going to discuss that date now, or are you going to put calendar it later?
no, if it's to a date certain, we need to decide now.
Okay?
The next year is February the 19th.
Is it after Valentine's?
It is.
Yeah, and after the President's Day holiday on Monday.
Okay.
So,
So
is that-
February 19th is the next planning commission. Are you comfortable
I'm
with that?
comfortable with that.
Would
Absolutely.
that give you enough
Certainly.
time?
Yes.
All right, Mr.
So
Montano.
let me then correct my motion here. I move to continue this matter, this case, to date certain February 19th hearing without further notice.
I'll second that.
May we have a roll call on that?
Planning Commissioners Lee,
Aye.
Minassian,
Yes?
Shabazian,
Yes.
and Chairperson Pro Tem Astorian.
Yes. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, item number 9 has to do with Community Development Department updates. Are there any?
I
Ms.
think we
That's what
heard
we
that
saw. That's what
earlier.
we heard.
Yeah.
That's what we heard?
Yes.
That's what we heard from Mr. Calvert.
Are there any comments from the commissioners? So we are adjourned.
So moved.
Thank you.
Happy Wednesday.